I became a mother at 17, and from that moment forward, my life stopped belonging to me. When those 2 pink lines appeared, I watched my future dissolve like sugar in water. College acceptance letters, dreams of travel, the simple freedom of being young and reckless, all replaced by the weight of responsibility. Chris stood beside me, barely older than I was, promising we would make it work. We married young, too young, and built a life together that looked perfect from the outside but felt like a cage I had constructed with my own hands. My daughter Clara arrived, and I poured everything I had into her, determined she would never make the mistakes I did, never sacrifice her dreams for a boy, never find herself trapped before her life had truly begun. I became the mother who monitored every choice, who questioned every friend, who saw danger in every freedom, because I had lived the consequences of youthful impulsivity. My sister Jenny was always the opposite of me, wild where I was cautious, free where I was constrained. She dated Jonah, Chris's best friend, and the 4 of us became an inseparable unit, a tangled web of relationships that felt unbreakable. Jenny and I shared everything, or at least I believed we did. She was my best friend, the person who knew my secrets, my fears, the depth of my regrets about the path I had chosen. When she became pregnant with her son Elijah, I stood by her, just as she had stood by me. We raised our children side by side, creating memories that seemed permanent, anchoring ourselves in the belief that family would always be our foundation. The night everything shattered started like any other. Chris said he was working late, another shift at the fire station, another night I would spend alone with my thoughts, and my growing sense that something was shifting between us. When the knock came at the door, I knew before opening it that my life was about to split into before and after. The officers spoke words that made no sense. Accident, hospital, you need to come now. Jonah drove me, his face pale and set, neither of us speaking because silence felt safer than giving voice to the terror building inside us. At the hospital, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as a doctor delivered the news that Chris and Jenny were gone, taken by a car crash that made no sense, that felt impossible, that couldn't be real because they weren't supposed to be together. The details emerged slowly, cruelly. They had been in Chris's car, on a road that led nowhere near the fire station, nowhere near where Jenny had told Jonah she would be. The car had veered off the road, the impact instant, their deaths mercifully quick, but mercy felt like a lie as I stood in our empty house that night, touching Chris's belongings, searching for something that would make this nightmare comprehensible. I found his gym bag, the one he always kept in his trunk, and inside, beneath the workout clothes and the water bottle, I discovered lingerie that wasn't mine. The world stopped spinning. Time ceased to exist. The grief I had been holding inside transformed into something else, something sharp and consuming that cut through every memory I had built with my husband and my sister. I couldn't tell Clara. She was already broken by the loss of her father, her beloved aunt, the 2 people who had always been her champions, who had encouraged her dreams of filmmaking, who had understood her in ways I never could. How could I add to her pain by revealing that they had betrayed us both, that the foundation of our family had been built on lies? I kept the secret locked inside, letting it fester, letting it change me into someone Clara no longer recognized. She saw my distance as rejection, my silence as indifference. She retreated into her own world, finding solace in Miller Adams, a boy I knew was trouble, a boy who represented every mistake I had made at her age. I pushed back, hard, the way I always had, and she pushed harder, and the space between us grew until it felt like an abyss. Jonah became my unexpected anchor. He had lost Jenny, the woman he was supposed to marry, the mother of his child, and he was grappling with his own suspicions about Elijah's paternity. We were 2 people drowning in the same sea of betrayal and grief, and somehow, in each other's presence, we could breathe. He understood the weight of carrying a secret that could destroy a child's world. He understood the complexity of loving someone who had hurt you so deeply. Our friendship shifted gradually, imperceptibly at first, into something more. We found comfort in shared silence, in the simple act of existing beside someone who didn't require explanation. But Clara saw our closeness and misunderstood it completely. She accused us of having an affair, of betraying her father's memory, of being no better than the people we had lost. Her words cut deeper than she knew, because part of me wondered if she was right, if finding comfort in Jonah was a betrayal, if moving forward meant I was erasing Chris, if choosing happiness was the ultimate act of disloyalty. The tension in our house became unbearable. Clara started sneaking out, staying out all night, drinking with Miller, doing everything I had warned her against. I would wait up, my anger building with each passing hour, until one night I couldn't contain it anymore. When she stumbled in, smelling of alcohol and defiance, I grabbed a hammer and attacked the kitchen door, pounding out my rage, my frustration, my overwhelming sense of failure as a mother. The hole I created became a physical manifestation of what I had done to our family. I had broken something that could never be perfectly repaired. Clara watched me, her face a mixture of horror and understanding, seeing for the first time the depth of my pain, the extent of my unraveling. Miller's grandfather, a wise old man who had seen his share of loss, pulled me aside one day and told me something that shifted my perspective. He said that grief doesn't have a timeline, that pain doesn't follow rules, that sometimes we break things because we're broken inside, and that the measure of our strength isn't in staying intact, but in how we choose to rebuild. His words settled into the cracks of my heart, finding their way into the places that had been hollowed out by betrayal. I realized I had been so focused on protecting Clara from making my mistakes that I hadn't seen she was making her own, different ones. I had been so determined to keep her from the pain of knowing the truth that I had created a different kind of pain, one built on distance and secrets. The confrontation finally came on Clara's birthday. She had spent the night before at the cemetery, drunk and lost, sitting by the graves of the people who had betrayed us both. When she came home, hungover and fragile, I knew I couldn't keep the truth inside any longer. I sat her down and told her everything, the affair, the lies, the way I had discovered their betrayal, the reason I had been so distant, so angry, so unlike the mother she remembered. I watched her face as she processed the information, saw the way her grief for her father transformed into something more complicated, something that mixed love with anger, memory with betrayal. She asked if I blamed her, if the text she had sent Jenny that night had somehow caused the accident. I held her then, both of us crying, and told her no, that Chris had been driving, that nothing she had done could have changed what happened, that she was not responsible for the choices adults made. In that moment of raw honesty, something shifted between us. The wall we had built cracked, and we could finally see each other again. She told me about Miller, about her fears that she was repeating my pattern, that she was falling too hard too fast. I listened without judgment, offering only the wisdom I had earned through my own mistakes. She told me she had been wrong about Jonah and me, that she could see now that we were two people trying to survive the same storm. I drove her to Miller's work that day, watched them reconcile through the window of the movie theater where he worked, and felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Jonah and I finally acknowledged what had been growing between us. We stood in my kitchen, the door still bearing the scar of my rage, and we talked about Jenny and Chris, about the impossibility of their betrayal, about whether we were allowed to be happy after everything that had happened. He told me about his fears regarding Elijah, about whether Chris had been his son's father, and I told him that biology didn't matter, that love was what made a parent, that he had been there, that he was the one who had stayed. We decided to stop letting the secrets of the dead control the lives of the living. Together, we burned the letters Jenny had written to Chris, the evidence of their affair, watching the paper curl and blacken until it was nothing but ash. It felt like a release, like we were finally free to move forward. Clara came to me the next morning and told me she was okay with Jonah and me, that she understood now, that she wanted me to be happy. She had found the box with the burned letters, saw the truth I had been protecting her from, and instead of breaking her, it had made her stronger. She told me that Miller had applied to film school, that he was serious about his future, that she was serious about hers. She asked if I would help her with her application essays, if I would support her dreams the way I had always wanted to. I pulled her close and told her I would, that I had never stopped supporting her, that my fear had made me controlling, but my love had never wavered. I look at my daughter now, really see her, and I recognize the woman she is becoming, not a reflection of my mistakes, but her own person, strong and resilient, and capable of choosing wisely because she has learned from my life, not just my warnings. I see Jonah with Elijah, the little boy who calls him daddy without question, and I understand that family isn't about blood or perfection or never making mistakes. It's about showing up, about choosing to love even when it's complicated, about rebuilding what gets broken, and accepting that the scars are part of the beauty. The hole in the kitchen door remains, a reminder of the night I broke down, but now it feels different, like a battle wound, proof that I survived the breaking and learned how to heal. My life at 34 looks nothing like I imagined it would at 17, but I'm learning to let go of the girl I was, the dreams I surrendered, the resentment I carried for the sacrifices I made. I'm learning that becoming a mother young didn't ruin my life. It just changed it, shaped it into something I couldn't understand until I had lived through the fire of loss and come out the other side. I'm learning that forgiveness isn't about excusing betrayal, but about refusing to let it define the rest of your existence. And I'm learning that sometimes, the person you become after everything falls apart is the person you were meant to be all along. Clara and I are building something new between us, something honest and hard-won. And as I watch her walk toward her future, I finally understand that my greatest legacy won't be the mistakes I prevented her from making, but the strength I showed her in rebuilding after everything I thought I knew turned out to be a lie.